Hi there, this is Jacob Nash, and this is a review of Module 55, Freud's Psychoanalytic Theory of Personality. So, new unit on personality. And side note, you might have watched Module 54 last, and you're like, hey, why did it take such a long time for him to make Module 55? But it's because, remember, like, I skipped ahead, and then I went back, and then now I'm back to normal, okay? All right. So remember Freud? Hopefully you remember what was his thing. And by thing, I mean perspective, school of thought, whatever you want to say. His perspective was the psychodynamic one, remember? And it focuses mostly on the unconscious and how past experiences affect now. So free association was something that Freud used. This was a method of exploring the unconscious in which a person relaxes and says whatever comes to mind, no matter how crazy it is. So sometimes people do that nowadays, something that's pretty similar called word association, such as what Angry Grandpa did.
McDonald's. McDonald's! Yeah!
Hopefully, well, you might know what was about to come out of his mouth next. So, oh, okay. Way to use Freud's thing there. Okay. And it always does that where it tries to play the video again. Okay, so psychoanalysis. This is his theory of personality that attributes thoughts and actions to unconscious motives. So he's like, our thoughts and our actions, it's because of the unconscious. That's what he always thinks. Unconscious, unconscious. And remember, there were some people that didn't like that because they're like, can't really study the unconscious. What is the unconscious, anyways? It's just, he considered it to be a reservoir of unacceptable thoughts, wishes, feelings, and memories that we are somewhat unaware of. That's not necessarily what he thought. That's not what Freud thought. That's what we know today, is that we're pretty much unaware of these things. Okay, so we need to know about three different things: the ID, ego, and superego. So the ID is a reservoir of unconscious energy that tries to satisfy aggressive drives. So this is basically the bad thing, basically. The thing, or not necessarily bad, but it's the thing that's like doesn't take into account morals or anything. It's just like things that Freud said that we have deep down that are things that are not very good, that and it operates on the pleasure principle. So if you see the picture right there, it's like bad only. Then we have the ego. This is the part of the personality that listens to the ID, superego, and reality. We're going to talk about the superego in a second, but it's kind of a balance between, all right, let's see if I can do the things that I really want to do deep down that might not be good, but let's try to adhere to the common morals of our society. And it operates on the reality principle. In reality, that's not what I should do. Superego, the opposite of the ID. So it is completely that direction. It's like, no, we're going to follow all the rules of society. We're not going to even do any of those things, okay? All right. And so this is Freud's stages, not as important, but if you remember the rooting reflex, that kind of applies to this. These are just the stages that he believes there to be. Okay, so now we have, this is really the most important thing that in this module. There's 9 defense mechanisms. I noticed that for some reason, and you might want to pay attention to this, in the textbook, I don't know which edition, I probably should know which edition I'm basing this off of, but in the edition that I have, it did not have these in there for some reason. I don't understand why, because that is definitely something you need to know for the exam. Maybe it's in a different module, but these are basically what Freud called defense mechanisms, us versus the unconscious. So how do we combat the dumb things that the unconscious tries to say that we should do? Well, the first thing is repression. Most of these, luckily, even though there's 9, you might think that's a lot, that what they're called kind of sounds like what it is. anything that provides anxiety can be pushed back in the conscious. So no, not going to remember that time that was not good. Displacement directs anger away from the source to a less threatening person. So kind of like taking it out on someone. So there's someone that you're really mad at. So let's say Jim Carrey's mad at this guy, but he's not gonna direct his anger towards this guy because he's crazy. So instead, he directs his anger towards someone else. It's less threatening. All right, next is reaction formation. This is the idea that the ego is going to reverse a bad desire to a good one. So let's say he has a baseball bat and he's like, I'm going to hit that trash can. I hate this company. But then reaction formation, never mind. I'll do what I actually should do. I'll hit this baseball. Compensation. This is making up for failure by successes in different areas. So maybe he's upset that he can't play the guitar, but he can play tennis. So that's fine enough for him. Rationalization. This is just making a logical excuse for irrational behavior. Well, I was having a bad day. Regression. I couldn't really think of a picture to put for this one, but it's pretty easy to know. This is just reverting back to a childish behavior. Denial. This is just what it sounds like. Refusal to acknowledge or accept unwanted behaviors or actions. Sublimation is redirecting aggressive feelings towards a more acceptable outlet. And this is not the same thing as, remember back here, displacement. That's like saying we're taking it out on someone else. But this is more like, I'm going to do something with this feeling that's in a better way to do. So, for example, if you're mad, you might hit the pillow or hit the bed instead of maybe actually hitting a person. And then projection, this is just disguising one's impulses by attributing them to others. So no, that's kind of, it's almost like passing the blame, sort of. It's like, oh, no, that's not me, that's them. All right, some questions here. What is the purpose of the ego? Remember, it's to listen to the demands of the ID and superego in reality. So it's like a balance between this is really what deep down, this is what I'm trying to do, but also I'm going to listen to what's actually the thing that we should do. It prevents us from acting on basic urges that may not be acceptable. So we naturally, according to Freud at least, we have certain urges that, of course, may not be acceptable. Which defense mechanism disguises one's own threatening impulses by attributing them to others? That's what we just had on the last slide, projection. Which component of personality is blind, impulsive, and irrational? That's the idea. Remember, it's like blind to what the actual things that we should do, or not do. Which defense mechanism requires individual to retreat to a more infantile stage? Remember, that's like regret. Well, it is regression. That going back to a more infantile stage. According to Freud, which personality structure reflects moral values? That's the superego. It's completely moral. It's not a balance like ego is. It's completely that side. Which defense mechanism shifts impulses towards a more acceptable or less threatening person? That's displacement, remember? It's kind of like taking it out on someone else. This defense mechanism banishes conscious anxiety, thoughts, feelings, and memories. Remember, that is repression. All right, repress that back. Don't get mixed up with repression and regression. They are the same word except for a G or a P, but hopefully you know what they mean anyways. But this is what Freud called personality theory and its associated treatments. Psychoanalytic, that's what he called his theory. All right. Well, there you go. Thanks for watching, and check out this new outro that I'm about to have.